Hey, what's up everyone? You're welcome to the second part of this series. Today, in the course of building our dictionary website, we'll be working extensively on JavaScript, where we'll be validating our search input, and we're also going to be sending the searched input or the input the user makes through AJAX in JavaScript. So guys, the first thing you want to do is to start your server. So by default, it's going to be, stopped. So all you need to do is to start it, click on the start and click on the start. Then you make sure you start just your Apache and MySQL. If you can remember in the last video, I told you guys to download the front end code from my GitHub repo. So this is it. All you have to do is just to come over here, github.com/graphicsdesign. The link is in the description too. So guys, what you need to do is just to come to the code section and download this. Just download zip. So guys, I've already downloaded this, so I don't need to download this again. So all I need to do is to teach you how to set this up. So once you download it, by default, it's going to be in your downloads folder. So all you need to do is just to copy it and come over to your local disk here. Come over to your local disk and locate your XAMPP. This is your XAMPP. Double click on it. Now we have to look for the htdocs folder. htdocs. You can see htdocs. So it's just like our HTTP folder for web projects. So all you need to do is just to locate it, then paste whatever you copied into here. So definitely it's going to come as a zip, just like I have this project I worked on some times back. So it's going to come as a zip like this. All you need to do is just to extract it here. And it's as easy as that. It's going to open the folder here. So you're going to have something like this, exactly the same thing I have here, word search. So when you have pasted it, all you need to do is to open your browser. Now that we have our server running, that is Apache is started, all you need to do is just to come over here and type localhost/word search. As simple as that. So remember, the name of the folder is word search, as you can see here. So in htdocs, you can remember the name of the folder is word search. So all I need to do is just to type localhost/the name of the folder, and you'll get exactly the same thing I have here. So if you don't have this, then do refer to the first part of this series where I covered the installation and setup. And if you are still experiencing any confusion, do let me know. Leave your question in the comment box and I'll reply you. So guys, what we need to do now is to validate this input. So in case a user doesn't input a word, he can't make a search. So we'll just throw him like an error, like, okay, please type in a word or something. So guys, let's start with that. So guys, the next thing you want to do is to head over to your htdocs and just click on this folder itself, then right click on it. Now when you right click on it, you will see an option that says open with Visual Studio. So all you have to do is just to click on it and it's going to open it in this Visual Studio. Remember, we learned how to install it in the last episode or in the last series. So in case you don't see that option, all you need to do is just to open Visual Studio Code. Just type Visual Studio Code and it's just going to open up. So I have it open already. Then come to the file, then just click on open folder. You can see the shortcut Ctrl-K plus Ctrl-O or Ctrl-O. So just open it. Then we can just make sure you head over to your local drive. That's your local disk rather. Then come over to your XAMPP. Then make sure you are at the htdocs. Then look for word search. That's it. Then select the folder. Once you select the folder, automatically it's going to open straight up. So guys, these are all the files. We have just an index.php file and what's history.php. As you can see in the browser, we have our word history and the rest. Okay guys, to take away this error, all we have to do is just to come over here and comment this line of code. That's in the word history. Just come over to the word history.php and comment that line of code. All I needed to do was just to hold down Ctrl plus. It's actually called / I suppose, if that's the right word for it. Then let's refresh and let's see. Now that error is gone. So that solves that. So guys, make sure you follow along with that to update your code. So guys, now let's validate this input. So guys, we're going to go to our JS file, that's JS folder rather, and create a file called, let's call it dictionary.js. All right. See, I can't type actually because I can't look at my keyboard clearly. Okay, so we have dictionary.js and let's make sure we link this in our includes files. Let's go to the head.php Actually, it should be at the footer. The links will be at the footer. So we can add the dictionary.js. Okay, you can see it's already added here. But just in case you don't know what's going on, all I needed to do, since I'm using an external JavaScript file, I just had to just come over here to the script section and type script like this, script source. And what's the source? The source is actually in the JS. So it's referencing to the file we created in the JS folder, which is this /dictionary.js. Is as easy as that. So we already have it there, so you don't have to bother about that. So by doing this, we already have the dictionary code. Whatever we'll be doing in our JS is already linked into our main file. So it's going to load in the browser as soon as we load the website. So guys, the first thing you want to do is to actually go to your index page. Let's close all this up and go to your index page. And when you go to your index page, now let's look for the form. This is the form. I've given it an ID of what search. You can see it if you are following along with me. So I gave it an ID of what search, so we can be able to identify it and use it in our JavaScript code. All right, so all I need to do is to get the ID of this word search. This is the input box. I've already given it an ID too, and I also gave it a name of word search, and I gave it an ID of search. So now let's see how we can use all this. So all I need to do is to come over here, and now I'm just going to type jQuery ready. jQuery ready. All right, so I already have my snippet here. I'm going to be using jQuery AJAX for this, so it's going to be faster for me. All right guys, if you don't understand this, don't worry, just follow along and you understand this. Okay, so for those of you that wondered how I got the snippet that fast, I'm using an extension called let's look for it here. I'm using an extension. You can just download it and use, so it can help you generate snippets quicker instead of us writing all these lines of code. So it's called jQuery. I think I saw it not quite long. jQuery code snippets. So this is the code extension I'm using. I downloaded it, and jQuery code snippet has been helpful generate jQuery code snippets for me that I can easily use. So guys, so that's what I'll be using. So just you can easily download it too and follow along. So the next thing I want to do is to target. Now let's open this separately. Now is to target this, is to grab the ID. So when I grab this ID and use in my JavaScript file, I'm just going to come over here and say, okay, I'm going to initialize an on-click operation on this. So that's to say, I'm just going to say, all right, I'm just going to put my $sign and type. And since it's an ID, I'm just going to put my hashtag. I can actually generate this with the code snippet, the jQuery code snippet, but I decided to just show you guys so you can follow along. So I'm just going to paste this here, the word search. So why I'm using an hash is because of the fact that it's an ID, so I have to use an hash. If it's a class, I use a dot as a selector. So I'm going to say .submit, .submit. It's as easy as that. So what happens when it submits? Or let me just generate the snippet for you. I can just say type JQ submit, and you see what happens. So you can see JQ submit, exactly the same thing I'm writing up here. So all I need to do is just let me just cut this and paste it. You can see in the selector, I'm just going to paste this here and take away this. So all I need to do is to come here and just write in my code in here. All right, so what do I want? I actually want two things. I want to grab the ID of the input. Now, if for those of you that don't understand what this is e.prevent-default, meaning it should prevent the default operation of the browser. So whenever you make a submit, whenever you submit an input, if I'm to come here and type equals to submit here and save this. Now, when I refresh my browser, when I type submit, you can see it refreshes the browser. So that's the default operation of a form. Whenever you submit a form, definitely it's going to refresh the browser. But now when we use a jQuery code, when we use e.prevent-default, that's this e is the event. So I'm saying the event will prevent default. When we prevent the default operation of the browser, which is to stop it from refreshing. So I'm just going to save this. Anytime I make a form submit, it's not going to refresh. So guys, don't worry, we'll see this in action. Okay guys, so let's validate this form. So now what we're going to do is to get the ID of this form. If you don't know how to set an ID of a form, it's very simple. Just type ID and equals to then type whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to call it search. So now let's grab the ID of this form. It's just called search. I'm going to copy it and come over here and assign it to a variable called search. All right, and I'm going to grab it. And how do I grab it? I'm going to grab it through jQuery. And remember, it's an ID, right? So the selector is going to be hash, and it's called search, then .val with a parenthesis or a bracket. Yeah, it's actually a bracket. So this val means what? What's trying to say is what? Get the value of this input. Get the value of this input. So now what I intend to do is with this is this. When I make a search, if the value of this is empty, if it's equals to empty, if the value of this input is equals to empty, it should throw a border around this, like a border of danger around this, meaning that you can't submit an empty input, you must impute something inside, right? So that's what we want to achieve. So this is how we're going to achieve that. So now let me show you the border class first. Let's just add it first so you can see how it looks like. So I'm just going to add, it's called border danger. It's a bootstrap class. So I'm going to save this and let's refresh. And okay, so you can see how it is. So whenever a user makes an empty input, right, when he clicks on make a search, it should throw this red border around if this is empty. But if there's something inside, there shouldn't be this red border, right? So let's validate that. All right, guys, so I'm just going to take away this border danger from here. And now let's initialize this here. So now I'm going to say, now let's set a condition to validate this. So say if the search is equals to empty. So if you notice, I'm using a double equals to sign, and that's because in programming, when you are trying to equate the value of two parameters or two values, you use a double equals sign. But when you want to assign a value to another, then you use one equal sign, because it's an assignment operator. This is an inequality operator. Okay, guys, so we're going to say if this search evaluates to empty, what should happen? So we're going to say now, if it evaluates to empty, now we're going to set this search input. Remember, we've given it an ID, right? So we're going to set it to add a class. Let's say add a class that's search input. Remember, it's called search. Now there's a method or a function in jQuery that says that add class. So when you add class, now what's the name of the class? Remember, I've copied it. It's called border danger, right? So you should add this class of border danger anytime a user makes an empty input. Now let's try that. So I'm going to refresh once again. Now you can see, I hope you remember we have removed the border danger from here, so it's not supposed to show again, and we have added it here. So anytime a user makes an empty input, you should what? Let's try it. Let's test it out. So I'm going to make an empty input, and wow, you can see it here. It has this red border danger, indicating that we can't make a search here because it's empty. So now when we type something, it should disappear, right? And how many of you noticed that when I made this search, the browser didn't refresh? That's because of just this little line of code here. So you can see this event default, it's stopping the default operation of the browser to always refresh anytime it's making a submit or whenever it's submitting a form. So because of this line of code here, our browser is not going to refresh, and that's very cool, because anytime we're making a request, we don't need our browser to always keep refreshing like that and always reloading resources and the rest. All right, guys, so now whenever it makes an input, what should happen? So we're going to say else what should happen? So we're just going to copy this line of code here and paste. Okay, so I'm going to say else you should what? Remove the class of that border danger, right? All right, let's refresh, Ctrl+R, and let's refresh. Okay, so when a search is empty, when I make a search, what happens? It throws this border danger. Okay, so what happens when we type something? Wow, you can see it has disappeared. That's because we have used a programming language called JavaScript, and jQuery is a library of JavaScript. We have actually used it to validate this. So this is cool, isn't it?